Today is Thursday, June 10th. I've got my coffee and now I'm going to talk about some music. Today I'm talking about the 2012 release Trick by Alex G. I had never heard of Alex G before listening to this. This record was recommended to me by my cousin, so I had no idea what I was getting into. As it turns out, Alex G is a indie rock kind of bedroom pop artist, so he's kind of right up my alley. I could tell because this record worked for me, that's for sure. This record's very low-key on the surface level, but if you read any of the lyrics or look into it whatsoever, the phrase I would use to describe it is like emotionally agonizing. In 2012, this record somehow encapsulated the feeling of isolation better than I think anything that came out last year. Alex G does a lot of singing about what feels like isolation that is self-induced, even if he knows that's not a good idea for himself, but it's all he knows how to do. He just would rather be by himself or with his dog and not interact with people. This record isn't sad in a way that makes me feel super bad for the artist or anything. It's sad in a way that I, and I'm sure many other people, can relate to it because it's just talking about forcing yourself to be alone when really you probably should be interacting with friends or family, but it's all you really know how to do in the situation. So across about 16 tracks that are all fairly short, he really encapsulates that feeling of just like emotional despair from being alone. And I will be turning this record on if I'm having a bad day probably, because it gets it, it understands. So I'm feeling good about this one. That was my listen for the day. I'll have something new for you all tomorrow, but until then I'm going to go finish my coffee. Thank you.